Muthuri's knees buckled, and he collapsed onto the forest floor. A cold sweat broke out on his skin as his breath grew ragged. His limbs felt like they were made of stone, too heavy to lift. The bough slipped from his grip, and a sharp pain shot through his chest. "What? What is happening to me?" he gasped. The forest around him was eerily silent. The rustling leaves had stilled, and even the insects had stopped their nightly songs. It was as if the entire forest was watching him, judging him. His eyes darted around the clearing, searching for the great antelope, but it was gone, vanished as though it had never been there. Then a whisper drifted through the air, though there was no one in sight. "Impatience brings hunger, haste brings weakness." Muthuri tried to stand, but his legs refused to obey. A terrible realization crept over him. The elder had warned him. If you rush, you will lose more than your prey. Had he just lost his strength? The wind howled through the trees, and suddenly Muthuri felt small, as if the mighty Imenti Forest had swallowed him whole. Muthuri didn't know how long he lay there. When he finally forced himself to crawl, every movement felt like dragging a boulder. His once powerful arms now trembled under his own weight. With great effort, he pulled himself up and leaned against a tree. He had to get home. The journey back to Wentakira felt endless. His body, once agile and strong, now moved sluggishly. His throat was dry, his stomach empty. The hunter, who had always walked with pride, now staggered like a wounded animal. By the time he reached the village, the first rays of dawn had started creeping over the hills. A few early risers saw him stumble through the gates. Gasps filled the air as villagers rushed toward him. "Muthuri," cried his sister Kagwiria, her eyes wide with shock. "What happened to you?" But Muthuri had no answer. He collapsed into the dust, unable to lift himself anymore. When he awoke, he was inside his mother's hut, covered in warm blankets. The smell of burning herbs filled the air. His mother knelt beside him, her worried face creased with age. "Muthuri," she whispered, "what did you do?" The room was filled with villagers, and at the center of them stood Ntomarete, the elder. His face was unreadable as he studied Muthuri. "You hunted the great antelope, didn't you?" the elder finally asked. Muthuri swallowed hard and nodded. The elder sighed deeply. "You have brought this upon yourself." A murmur spread through the crowd. "What do you mean?" Kagweria asked. "Why is my brother so weak?" Ntomarete leaned on his walking stick. "The great antelope is no ordinary prey. It is a test of the soul. It cannot be caught by those who lack patience. Those who fail the test lose the very strength they pride themselves on." Muthuri's heart pounded. So it was true. The antelope had cursed him. He tried to sit up, but his arms trembled like those of an old man. He clenched his jaw. "How could this be happening to me?" "You can regain your strength," the elder continued, "but only if you learn what you have never known. Patience." Muthuri's breath caught in his throat. "How?" The elder stepped forward and placed a gnarled hand on his shoulder. "Go to the forest. Sit in the clearing where you lost your strength. Do not move. Do not hunt. Do not speak. Wait for 7 days, and only then will the great antelope return to you." Silence filled the hut. Muthuri's stomach turned. 7 days, alone in the forest, without food, without movement. The thought filled him with dread. He had never waited for anything in his life, and now his survival depended on it.